Hi, it's Mark Coopersmith from UC Berkeley, and I'm here with Michael Hinshaw. Michael, how you doing?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thanks.
Good.
Michael is a longtime friend, a colleague in the classroom. In fact, Michael has the Richard Holton Teaching Fellow Award from the Haas School of Business from some of the work that we've done together. So congratulations on that. By the way, I feel that's a particularly important award because when I was a MBA student at UC Berkeley, Richard Holton was my entrepreneurship professor way back when, and there's a teaching award named after him. So I think it's fantastic that you've won that award.
That's great. I'm pretty happy myself.
So yeah, exactly. There, a little context, right? Michael has, we've worked together for years in the classroom, collaborated in other areas. The key area where Michael focuses his attention, and he really has for almost 20 years, is this area of customer experience. I'm going to ask you to explain what that means in just a bit. And he is an entrepreneur. He's advised entrepreneurs. He's taught in the entrepreneurship program and social entrepreneurship with me for probably a decade or more. And before I turn it over to Michael to kind of introduce himself and this concept of customer experience, especially in the entrepreneurial venture, I thought I would offer up just at least one other kind of proof point for Michael. Book that he wrote, Smart Customers, Stupid Companies. Yes, we customers know we have choices. If we get a bad experience, we're going to go elsewhere. So Michael, thanks for spending some time online. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and customer experience.
Great. So I'm going to start by defining what customer experience is. And the thing is, you can't buy a box of customer experience, right? Because it lives between our ears and the ears of our customers. The reality is that customer experiences are formed as a result of any interactions that our customers have with any part of our organization. It could be our website, it could be our product, service, app, even third-party conversations about our brand, about our company, form opinions in the minds of our customers. And they use those opinions to make decisions about the behaviors that they undertake. So conceptually, the way customers feel impacts how they act and what they do, and that impacts your business.
So wait a minute, I try and create a great customer experience for my customers. Not enough?
You have to understand if it's the right experience for the right customer at the right time in the right place.
Right.
And actually one thing, so just a little bit about me, how I got into this. I've been in customer experience for 20 years, 18 years to be precise. And when we first started doing this, nobody knew what customer experience was. So we were kind of pitching that as a new idea, new concept, new thought. And once we started getting traction there, we started doing fairly tactical things the first 7 or so years of our existence. And the next 7 years of our existence is helping organizations understand how to do this stuff themselves. And now it's becoming part of more of the business model, right? Customer experience being how they organize, how they deliver, how they design and deliver products and services across their entire ecosystems. And this is for large organizations as well as small entrepreneurs.
Well, and I mean, to the extent that there's now a CXO, and this is where there actually is the CX, the customer experience officer, right? So organizations have taken it right up to the C-suite.
Yeah, I think 5 years ago, there were about 75 CXOs. And now there are thousands and thousands of CXOs in organizations of all types and sizes all around the world.
And what's happening? Yeah, and what's happening within that? So you may have CXOs, but I guess more to the point, who's responsible for delivering that? How has that started to change the way organizations structure themselves and deliver their products?
Well, the reality is that everybody's responsible for delivering a great customer experience. In some companies, it's easy to figure out, to kind of mentally frame that, oh, marketing is responsible for customer experience. I don't have to worry about it because they're selling stuff, or sales, or maybe it's service. In some organizations, they think all three of those things, and the folks who are designing contracts think they got nothing to do with customer experience.
Right.
So the reality is, you think about privacy terms, contractual agreements, everything impacts the experience across the entire org. So virtually every functional silo has an impact on the experience, and virtually every functional silo can deliver a great experience, but a really crappy one.
So what are some examples of companies that are considered to deliver really good experiences, or companies that didn't do a great job but now do a better job? Explain to us kind of what those reputations are. And there's some iconic companies, or maybe some that have that reputation but they've kind of fallen off the top of the mountain.
So I'll start with a client of ours, Microsoft. Microsoft for many years did not have a great experience.
Exactly.
And it was regarded as an organization that explicitly did not deliver great experience. They made a lot of money, right? Smart company, very, very smart people. And their new CEO basically came in with a mantra of, actually he was in role for I think about 8 months before he came out with his mantra of customer obsession as the guiding light for Microsoft across all divisions and groups.
And where did that come from? Did that come from going out and talking to customers and customers said, you guys deliver a poor customer experience?
I don't think it was a surprise to a lot of the organization.
Right.
Right. Like I said, not stupid people.
Right.
But what they didn't have was permission to actually focus on the customer and invest in making the experience better.
Right.
And with a organizational mantra of customer obsession, that gave, and resources behind that, it's not just lip service. By actually saying and meaning the customer is important to them, they're able to invest appropriately, and all you have to do is look at their position in the market today, their stock valuation, and the way customers feel about them now versus the way they did 10 years ago to know that that focus has paid off big time.
Oh, no, it's amazing. I was just talking with another group today about kind of the value of companies, and there's a select few that are, that have a shot at becoming the first $3 trillion market cap company. Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft are the only two, the only three that are really kind of within distance, right? They're, plus or minus at $2 trillion. And a lot of people are surprised to find Microsoft in that company, but they absolutely are.
Yeah, and they're moving fast. I'll give you another example, and then actually I'll give you a third kind of startup example. So the second example is Best Buy. We've all heard about, right? Retail is dead. If it's not dead, it's dying. If it's not dying, it's really sick, right? So it's pretty much recognized that retail has moved online, e-commerce is the thing, and physical stores are no longer worth investing in, or as much of an asset as they used to be. So Best Buy as an organization, they do a great job of listening to customers. They have a highly advanced, I think about 60 people in their customer experience organization, maybe more today. That was earlier this year. And if you look at how Best Buy is looking at the marketplace, they recognize that their assets are, I think 10,000 stores and 100,000 retail employees, significant footprint all around North America. And unlike JCPenney's, Sears of the world that simply, stacks and racks of stuff, what they've done is they've recognized that e-commerce actually doesn't fulfill a key part of what customers need, which is some curation, services around products, and they've pivoted their organization to deliver products and services based on customers telling them what they actually need. Again, success, right? Their competitors are dropping like flies. Their market valuation continues to rise. The organization is thriving even today with all that's happening in the world.
Yeah, a lot of people, we know that most of the electronics retailers have disappeared. Best Buy's managed to survive and thrive. It's exactly right. Let me shift the gear just a little. There may be another example or two that you're kind of teeing up, but we're talking about big companies and their focus on customer experience and how they're starting to get it right. How about entrepreneurs? How do entrepreneurs create a good customer experience, a great customer experience, use CX as a competitive advantage as they're launching products from the very beginning? Because you want to bake it into the product, but sometimes you're just going lean and mean, lean startup, right? Rapid iteration, and we can't always think about customer experience. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, how do we deliver that better customer experience from the very get-go?
So first, I'm going to give you an example, and then I'll have a couple of things behind that. It's kind of like my creation story as a customer experience executive and an advisor. Late 90s, I sold an ad agency and was approached by a private equity firm to start an internet business. No idea what internet business I wanted to start. Since I'm looking at it, and finally selected grain trading in Canada as our target area. Again, sold a marketing business, nothing about grain, nothing about technology, nothing about e-commerce. And we put together a system to really help us understand that marketplace. And that system is kind of the foundation for everything I talk about as it relates to customer experience and have done for the last 20 years, which is understand the entire market, understand what your customers want and need, understand where the pain points are, the gaps are between their expectations and needs, what they actually get, who the players are in that marketplace, and figure out how to fill those gaps and close them in ways that the incumbents simply don't.
Yeah.
And the incumbents could be large competitors, small competitors, or inertia. But
so I know that grain trading organization actually had a pretty good run, but the interesting thing is it's the framework around creating a better customer experience that fundamentally survived 20 plus years, even beyond that organization, right?
and I work with, and Mark, you work with as well, many startups that do a really good job figuring out, what's the product market fit, right? Is this thing that we've come up with solving the problem that our customers have? And once they get to yes on that, we argue that the next step, or even as part of that, right? So it's baked in. It's also understanding experience market fit. It's understanding what customers want to feel, how they want to interact with the product or service. And increasingly, I'd suggest that those two things are not separate. They're deeply connected, deeply linked. The actual experience of using the product is, intrinsic part of the product or service itself.
Yeah. So what advice do you give to entrepreneurs? Let's say it's three of us in a garage. We haven't raised any capital yet. We're prototyping like mad. We're getting ready to go to market. How do we think about this? What are the 2 or 3 key takeaways? We've got about 5 minutes left in the time that we've set aside. Yep. What are the key takeaways or the key pieces of advice you would give us? And it can be a hard product, it can be a service, it can be across sectors. And I know there may not be absolute truths, but at least some guiding North Stars.
So one of them, and this is a core component of any entrepreneurial venture, right? Understand what your customers want, understand what your customers need, and figure out how to give it to them. I know it sounds super simplistic.
So how do you do that though? That's the key thing, right? It's like, yeah, of course I want to understand what my customers want, but how do I do that?
Yeah, again, simplistically, talk to them, right? Understand through conversations. You can do, starting with one-on-one interviews, right? Talking to people who you want to be your customers, who are your customers, or people who are customers of competitors or other solutions that are in the marketplace. You can.
Right. So let me pause there. So in other words, even if you don't have a product out there, but you know where you're targeting, you can go talk to customers of competing or substitute products and say, what do you like about these products and what they deliver, and what don't you like? What do you wish they did, right? What are your biggest frustrations? Now, from my standpoint, first of all, that helps you identify where market opportunity exists for your core product, but then also how to deliver that great customer experience so that you drive the kind of loyalty you want. Because customer experience truly impacts loyalty and retention. It impacts a lot of things, and actually, let's talk about that.
It also, you think about the life cycle, right? Try, buy, use, simplistically.
Right.
To try, you need to actually make a decision to utilize a product or service. And experience, again, is increasingly a part of decisions to use. Right. So, and they're really a big part of people making decisions about not just using, but opening up their wallets and becoming customers. And once they've done that try part, right, they actually begin using it as a product or service. The stickiness of that product or service is driven in no small part by the experience of using it. So it might be solving a real problem, but if there's too much friction in the experience, if it's too difficult to use, if it doesn't feel right, then it's going to be very difficult to retain and grow those customers. And when it comes to any kind of startup venture, getting customers is key, but you got to keep them too. And once you keep them, you want to grow them.
Right. So in particular, retention is huge, right? You don't want that churn. And if you can grow whatever you want to call it, your CLV, your customer lifetime value, or your ARPU, your average revenue per user, whatever you want to use your metric as, that's huge. Now,
if you have a customer, if you have a customer that you keep for 6 months, right, you keep them for 12 months, you double your CLV.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So well, and maybe you more than double your profit because you've got to earn that back. Your cost of acquisition is pretty much sucked up by those first 2, 3, 5 months or so. Yep. So when you talk about your lifetime margin, yet something else, your customer lifetime profitability even more. All right, but I'm concerned because you're treading on all of these other areas that the entrepreneurs, that other people have staked out. Michael, you're treading on customer discovery, talking to your customers about their problems. You're treading in the area of design and design thinking, right? Kind of that 360 view of a customer's relationship, potential use of the product. So what's different and unique about customer experience, or does it truly intrude upon those areas?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the phrase intrude. I think of it more like a Venn diagram, right? And if you do any of those things as an entrepreneur, if you invest entirely in any one of those areas, you're not going to succeed as well as you could have if you look at all three of those. And ultimately, I mean, design thinking, we use the phrase, we say basically it's customer thinking. Design thinking is all about.
It is exactly.
Right. But it's also about starting with customer wants and needs. Right. So what do customers want and need? And then what product or service can we deliver, create that actually solves those wants and needs? Whereas, customer discovery, that's more about a founder's vision of a product or idea and saying, hey, here's my thing. Who's gonna buy that? And that's that same kind of, develop, run, iterate, improve cycle. And then customer experience is figuring out how to use all the information you gain using those other tools.
Right.
To deliver experiences that differentiate you from the competition. In addition to having a product and or a service that solves the need, it's doing it in a way that makes it easy to keep, easy to use, and easy for customers to stay.
Yeah. So the two most important things from my standpoint that a good entrepreneur, even a good business person, needs to do, break it down just to two really basic things. You need to create a product or service that people want, and you need to create a business model that allows you to make money over the long run. And if you can do those things, if you can create product market fit, and if you can get that business model to work, then the rest flows from it. There's a whole lot more that has to go behind that, right? Including support and things like that. But if you can do both of those things, you really should be baking an excellent CX, an excellent customer experience into that from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, it's a critical piece of any modern product or service, and in fact, it's a critical piece of many successful older products and services. It's how companies are winning.
All right. So when we think about what those two or three key tools we've just had a short time here together, but are there a couple of key tools that you use to help analyze? There's other things we haven't even touched on, things like customer journey mapping or, all sorts of other elements. But if I'm an entrepreneur that's not steeped in customer experience, yet I know I want to create that, kind of as we wrap up, are there a couple of areas you would go, or some final thoughts of wisdom or areas you'd like to reinforce that we've already touched?
Yeah. I mean, so on the research side, I'd suggest, interviews we talked about, right, one-on-one. There's also really inexpensive, very accessible tools you can use. I mean, Google Survey, I think, is one that, not only helps you design and build a survey, helps find people to take it for you. Mm-hmm. And if you have access to, a list of potential customers, you can go out and, do inexpensive surveys yourself. So don't just get qualitative data. To the degree you can, quantify it, right? So if 3 people tell you something, that's really good information. If 80 people tell you the same thing, that's excellent information. So don't just rely on qualitative data. Absolutely don't rely on your gut alone. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you mentioned journey mapping. And so conceptually, journey maps can be really complex. They can also be really easy. And I know that, it's likely that you don't know what a journey map is. Go online, look it up, you'll figure it out pretty quickly. But a journey map is a way to look at that, at the life cycle of a customer, from acquisition through, onboarding or acquisition, onboarding, use, loyalty, et cetera. And asking yourself, as you design your product or service and the experience of using it, how does the experience at each stage of that life cycle accelerate movement of customers into your ecosystem? So how can you make them become aware of you more quickly? And then doing that, how do you make the experience of them becoming customers easier, right? So you think about eliminating friction, eliminating pain at every part of the process, and that's a key part of the experience. Friction-free, enjoyable, and easy.
Fantastic. I want to wrap it up, unless you have one last juicy piece of advice you'd like to offer.
Oh, I see your book on the wall behind you there, Mark. So my last piece of, yes, my last piece of advice is, any information that you use that might cause you to fail, I would say go out and use your failures as launching pads for doing things from that. So it's a learn and improve cycle. It's not necessarily a failure.
Right, right. I mean, that's the whole idea behind, certainly behind my book, which is experimentation is the way that we gain new knowledge. The more we experiment, the more new knowledge we get to succeed. Sometimes we get a failure or two along the way. Michael, thanks for joining us again. And here's Michael's book, Smart Customers, Stupid Companies. You can find him online. He's the CEO of MCOR, which is a customer experience management company, consultancy, and group of experts, all focused on this particular topic. Thanks for joining us.
It's great. Hey, my pleasure, Mark. Thanks a lot.
Bye.